The story of Jesus turning water into wine begins in the verdant region of Galilee, in a small, bustling town called Cana. The sun rose over rolling hills and olive groves as the townspeople awoke in anticipation of a joyous event, the wedding celebration. Such occasions in Galilee were no small affair. Weddings brought together whole villages. Friends, neighbors, distant relatives, and honored guests would gather for days of music, laughter, and feasting. On this particular day, the home of the bridegroom brimmed with excitement, and the scent of roasting meat and fresh bread mingled with the laughter and song that floated into the open air. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was among the guests. She had traveled from Nazareth, a journey she had made many times before, to be part of the celebration. Jesus too was invited, along with his disciples who now followed him closely, drawn by the authority of his words and the kindness in his eyes. Together, they arrived in Cana, greeted with warm embraces and earnest handshakes, weaving themselves into the fabric of the joyous crowd. As the festivities unfolded, the essence of Galilean hospitality shone forth. The tables, low and sprawling, were laden with figs and dates, fresh cheese curds, baskets of barley loaves, and pitchers of the region's sweet wine. Servers darted between guests, ensuring every cup and every plate was full. Children played in the courtyard, while the musicians tuned ancient instruments and invited song. The celebration stretched into its second day, as was the custom. Joy and laughter echoed into the night as stories were shared and elders offered blessings to the newly married couple. Yet, amid the merriment, a shadow of worry crept across the faces of those working behind the scenes. The wine, the symbol of joy and abundance, the centerpiece of the feast, was running out. To run out of wine at a wedding in those days was not a mere inconvenience. It was a deep embarrassment, a loss of honor for the host family, and a disappointment to the gathered guests. Whispers began to circulate among the servers. Mary, attentive as always, noticed the sudden urgency in their movements, the quiet distress in their eyes. She approached her son Jesus, who sat among his friends, listening and laughing gently. Leaning in quietly, Mary spoke to him with the intimate confidence only a mother possesses. "They have no more wine," she said softly. Her words hung with meaning, heavy with expectation. Jesus turned to her, his gaze loving yet measured. "Woman, what does this have to do with me?" he replied. "My hour has not yet come." Yet, Mary knew her son deeply. She sensed the compassion and the power that resided within him, even if few understood it fully. Without another word, she turned to the servants nearby. With a gentle firmness she said, "Do whatever he tells you." The servants gathered, uncertain but obedient, their faces a mixture of hope and confusion. In the courtyard stood 6 large stone water jars, each able to hold 20 or 30 gallons. These jars were used for the ceremonial washings, according to the traditions of the Jews. They stood firm and silent, as if waiting for their role to unfold. Jesus looked to the servants and instructed them simply, "Fill the jars with water." They hurried to the well, drawing bucket after bucket, filling each stone jar to the brim. Drops of water beaded on their arms and ran down the sides of the jars as they worked. Soon, the last jar was filled, and they turned to Jesus, awaiting further instruction. Then Jesus spoke again. "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." With hands perhaps trembling and hearts pounding, one servant dipped a ladle into the nearest jar, where moments ago there had been nothing but water. The liquid that poured out flashed deep and rich, the color of the finest wine. The servant stared, amazed, then carried the cup to the master of the banquet, who, unaware of the crisis that had just been averted, received the cup with an appreciative smile. The master of the banquet raised the cup to his lips and took a sip. He was immediately struck by the quality of the wine. It was richer, more fragrant, and fuller in flavor than any he had tasted all evening. His eyes widened in surprise, and, summoning the bridegroom, he said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink, but you have saved the best till now." The bridegroom, puzzled but elated, simply smiled and glanced gratefully at his family. The servants exchanged knowing glances, the secret of the miracle burning in their hearts. Mary met her son's eyes across the room, her faith rewarded, her heart swelling with quiet joy. In that moment, as the music lifted and the celebration continued, only a few understood the magnitude of what had just taken place. Jesus' disciples, who had witnessed the transformation, felt awe and reverence stir within them. They had already believed in him, but now their faith deepened as they saw his glory revealed in such a humble and compassionate act. For Jesus did not perform this miracle in a grand public spectacle or before the rulers of the land. His first sign was quiet, almost hidden, in a small town among close friends and servants. He turned water into wine to spare a family from shame, to uphold the joy of a celebration, and perhaps to show that the kingdom he preached would be marked by abundance, by joy, and by the quiet meeting of human need. The news of the wine's quality spread quickly around the banquet, and laughter filled the air once again. Goblets were raised, and the music grew louder, echoing through the night. The wedding at Cana would be remembered for generations, not merely as a joyful marriage, but as the place where something extraordinary had begun. After the feast, as the guests departed and the embers of the fires glowed faintly in the darkness, those who had seen the sign pondered its meaning. The disciples followed Jesus as he left Cana, their hearts burning with questions and hope. For in turning water into wine, Jesus had revealed the first glimpse of the greater miracles yet to come, the first sign that pointed toward his true nature and purpose.